Christopher Balkerin here, the host of the Open Minds podcast. Folks, you hear in the news a lot from Republicans and conservatives about the size of government, and often they say things like the government's too big, that the government expenditure is growing exponentially, and we need to cut the size of government. It's a common theme that we've heard not only from conservatives, but politicians seemingly across the board. So what I did is I went through the federal government of Canada's revenues and expenditures from the year 2000 to 2024, a solid 24-year window. And I wanted to look at the government's revenues, their expenditures, our social programs, because during this time, we've had both liberal and conservative governments for extended periods of time. Is there a tangible difference between liberals and conservatives when it comes to revenue expenditure and the overall size of government? And if not, can that be called out to all the conservatives and Republicans asking for smaller government? And folks, the stats are pretty stark. So I'm going to share with you some of them. Now, you might be asking, Christopher, during this time, didn't our population grow? And of course it did. It grew 36% from 2000 to 2024, 35 million to about 41 million today. So it's a good amount. But still, despite that 36% increase in our population, government grew even more. And I'm going to read some stats for you in case you're less aware. Revenue, $198 billion in 2000. 2024 government revenue was $496 billion, an increase of 150%. Income tax revenue, the biggest line item on all of our paychecks, $123 billion in 2000, $346 billion by 2024, an increase of 180%. Government size went from $176 billion in 2000 to $643 billion by 2024. That's a 265% increase. And our deficit also grew substantially as a result of COVID. So as we can see, government revenue grew 4 times the rate of the population. Income tax revenue grew at 5 times the rate of the population. Government spending exploded at 7 times the rate of the population. Now, you might be asking, Christopher, where did all of this spending go? There's only 36% increase. How could it possibly grow, and where did it grow the most? Well, we know that the GST, HST revenue grew by 140%. Corporate taxes increased from $29 billion to $90 billion, an increase of 210%. But also, despite Harper's corporate tax cuts from 21 to 15%, carbon pricing and luxury taxes were introduced by the Liberal government. Now, you might be asking, you're an individual, corporate taxes don't affect you. What does affect you? Payroll taxes. CPP and EI revenue grew by 160%. Excise taxes and new revenue sources, I mentioned the carbon tax, added about 7 to 9 billion. Luxury tax and sin taxes also increase. Where we increased our government spending, defense and security, $12 billion in 2000, $40 billion by 2024. That's an increase of 233%. Harper increased defense spending after the Afghanistan mission, but also the Liberals increased defense spending during the Ukraine war, which is ongoing. New fighter jet purchases, the F-35s, which has been in the news for many years, as well. Now with the Trump administration in the South, there's probably more pressure than ever for us to contribute more to NATO and pay our fair share. Healthcare has increased by 170%, as well. Our COVID spending from 2020 to now has really increased. Social programs, folks. 2000 was 68 billion, in 2024 was 260 billion, an increase of 280%. And before you might think, oh, the conservatives cut social programs, the Harper government introduced the universal childcare benefit, gradually expanded CPP, but kept spending a bit lower. As well, the Liberals replaced the universal childcare benefit with the Canada Childcare Benefit, adding billions, and then massive EI expansions as a result of COVID. So, folks, it's clear, regardless of who's in power, the government will expand. And I just wanted to mention, folks, Poilievre is going to become the next prime minister if we read the polls and we look at all the polls that's happening right now. And I fully expect come 2025 and beyond, Poilievre is going to do a few things, I think. He's going to make sure that our defense spending is robust. I imagine we'll increase defense from 40 to 60 to 70 billion. We'll still have a deficit. Social programs will probably remain. He may introduce one or two new programs that really get to moderates more than anything else. He may, in fact, axe the carbon tax and replace that with some other form of revenue generating source for Canada. And the reason I say all of this, folks, is because every government's interested in increasing government revenue at a very, very high rate. I mean, if you look at the government's revenue, if this were a stock on the stock market, we would all invest. This is an incredible rate of return year, over 24 years. We would all be retired by now, despite the population only growing at 36%. I anticipate that the powers that be will make sure that Poilievre will continue that trajectory 4 years plus as he's the next prime minister. So I'd encourage all of us, go through the books, folks, look at where our government is spending. Our income tax, your biggest line item of expense, is not going to go down. And this is a question I'd love to pose to Poilievre. The one thing that affects all of us isn't the carbon tax, it's your income tax. And that should be reduced. But I'd love to know what you think. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you believe that a conservative, a Republican, Democrat, do you believe any government is actually interested in seeing revenues go down, your income tax go down, expenditures go down, despite population changes? Let me know in the comment section below. My name is Christopher. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one.